So you see here, we've got this pretty cool cover, but what I always liked was the back cover. The back cover is pretty awesome. This is composed of scenes you can find inside the comic. And the front cover was something that was done, I think, mostly for the cover, sort of its own thing. But these are definitely scenes that are taken from panels that are inside the comic. I just want to make sure that this is framed in the shot properly, because this is such a large comic book. It took me quite some time to maneuver the camera into position. That's what's cool about these treasury-sized comics. They're extra big. So upon opening it, we have our credits based on the MGM movie by Stanley Kubrick and Arthur C. Clarke. Written, drawn, and edited by Jack Kirby. Inker, Frank Giacoia, Archie Goodwin, and Marv Wolfman consulting editors. So Goodwin and Wolfman had a hand in basically scripting this out, guiding Jack Kirby, I'm sure, in terms of how he was going to adapt the film. And as we can see here, it says adapted from the film by writer-artist Jack Kirby. Opening shot is basically kind of a preview of what's to come. This is the second sighting of the monolith, but they open with that, and basically he breaks it down for you. With the monolith begins the journey of man. The universe communicates with man, and history's greatest adventure is launched upon the eternal roads of time and space. This is a trip you mustn't miss. There are sights you've got to see to which you will marvel. Get it? Marvel? Haha. Africa, 4,000 years ago. The saga of Moonwatcher, the man-ape. So Kirby does a pretty good job of emulating the apes as they appeared in the film. And it basically goes through, you know, Kirby's voice is the voiceover. He's telling you the action, what's going on here. And it's basically, as I said in the preceding discussion, you know, they're just kind of hanging on in existence. They're barely getting by. They've got this water source they have to fight over. They're being attacked by apex predators. And Moonwatcher one night wakes up to find the monolith. And it's interesting, when Moonwatcher's tribe find the monolith, he has them drawn in kind of this worshiping pose, you know, like, and this is different than the film. In the film, they treat the object with great suspicion because it's so foreign to them and it appears out of nowhere, and they're kind of afraid of it. Moonwatcher eventually does touch it. It begins to transmit this audio sound, which is kind of a, you know, the same as the telepathic communication it's apparently creating with them. But they don't really, like, you know, gather around it and worship it, you know. More so, it kind of, they jump around, it kind of drives them crazy because the sound is like ear-piercing. So it's interesting that Kirby chose to represent it in this way. It's something that is an object of worship. And then he goes on to give really more detail than the movie. There's a little bit more here than in the movie. So Moonwatcher figuring out how to use a rock as a weapon to kill prey is not in the film. And then learning how to, or knowing how to move boulders off mountainsides to crush their prey, their predators, is also not in the film. So kind of expanding, you know, Kirby's kind of expanding the idea. Here they've learned leverage. Here they've learned projectiles. And then here's the infamous bone that they learn to use as a weapon. They attack the rival tribe to regain control of the water source. Moonwatcher throws the bone and it transitions, in Kirby's example here, the space shuttle. In the movie, it was the sort of satellite that was floating around Earth, and then the shuttle was revealed. Kirby jumps right into collage here, which is another cool thing about this book, is Kirby's use of collage. He takes, this is right out of the film, this is the space station. This shuttle was not in the movie. It was a different design in the movie, so he took this probably from the NASA material. You know, at this time in the USA, you know, they had built the shuttle. They hadn't launched it yet. They were getting ready to, it wasn't until I think 1980 or 81 that the shuttle actually was flown on the top of a 747, if I recall correctly. That might have been a year before. Yeah, that's right. So the shuttle wasn't launched, I think, till 81, the actual first shuttle flight into space. But the design of it was floating around, and so Kirby clearly cut it out from somewhere. He's got a couple of these other satellites, you know, that he found somewhere. So, you know, he's setting the stage here in the year 2001. Dr. Heywood Floyd is being shuttled to the space station. This is the infamous scene from the movie, and it's accompanied by the waltz. I believe it's the Blue Danube. That music. So he makes sure that he covers that part of it. Space station interior is pretty accurate to the film. It's even got the Hilton Hotel that they show in the film as well. And the design of these futuristic chairs. Although you can find stuff like this today at probably Restoration Hardware or Wayfair. So Heywood gets on the space station. He has some banter with some of the locals. And essentially what they're talking about is, you know, the cover story of some sort of epidemic that's broken out on the moon. And this is the cover story that they're using, you know, to cover up the fact that there's an alien artifact millions of years old that they've uncovered on the moon. In the film, there's this great scene where Heywood is asked about what's going on at Clavia Station by a group of Russian scientists presented in these 4 or 5 panels here. And essentially, Floyd says, well, you know, if there were an epidemic at the station, I wouldn't be at liberty to say, which they kind of take as his, you know, backdoor confirmation that, yeah, there's an epidemic there. The U.S. is trying to keep it hush-hush, though. You know, don't ask me any more questions. So he boards his next spaceship to get to the moon, which is this Aquarius model, I believe is what they refer to it. And then this gives Kirby a chance to get into some more collage. You know, so he's taken the space station from the film, but he's cutting out, you know, these scenes are not shot for shot from the movie. This is Kirby cutting out these elements. I probably had some still photos of this ship from the film and then kind of just superimposed them over pictures of the moon that we had from the moon landing and so forth. Because this was published in, what does the indicia say? 76, yeah. By the way, this is a pretty good copy of the comic. I mean, it's, you know, of course, you got some yellowing of the pages, but overall, the book is in pretty good condition. The seller sent it to me in fantastic packaging. I think I showed it previously on a earlier video, but even beyond all of the styrofoam peanuts and air bubble wrap and so forth, the book itself was wrapped in 1 layer of bubble wrap, and it was then covered with a cellophane plastic sheet that was the treasury size. Just fit in there. It had a acid-free backing, cardboard backing on it, and that was covered like in a 2nd layer of bubble wrap. So I mean, this thing was well protected, shipped to me. So that was great. I greatly appreciated that. especially taking into account what I paid for this copy, which I think was around $75, which actually is a pretty good price. I think this could go for $100 on eBay, which is where I bought it. So I was pretty happy with the price I got for it. What I would love to be able to do is just to scan every one of these pages, which I might do at some point. It's a little difficult to do, you know, because of the curvature of the binding and so forth. But yeah, because this is going back into the wrapper when I'm done with it. Probably another thing I'll do, though, before I do that is I'll take some, I'll use the scanning app on my phone to take pictures of some of the panels I find especially intriguing in this comic book, which we will see. These three panels here are basically lifted shots from the film, which is pretty cool. I thought it was interesting. It says, "Welcome to Clavius" here, but in the same shot next panel, that doesn't say that anymore. I'm not sure if Kirby forgot to do it or what. So we have him entering the base. He jumps on this little bus here. This is not in the film, not that I recall. And, you know, they're kind of discussing with the base commander, you know, hey, people are kind of anxious about what's going on. So they set it up so that people on the base don't really even know what all the fuss is about, all the secrecy and whatnot. But he is there. Floyd is there. Dr. Haywood Floyd is there to brief them. We found this anomaly, TMA, Tycho Magnetic Anomaly 1. It involves the crater Tycho and the particular thing which has happened to the moon's magnetic field in this area. A survey of this region from a low-level satellite gave us this analysis. From the intensity of the magnetic field, it was obvious some kind of buried object was emitting these waves, too strong for the standard nickel-iron meteor. So what he's saying is, you know, basically they were digging out there for mineral ore and they found this thing buried so deep in the moon that it was there, I think he said something like either 3 to 5 million years. And so the audience, the moon-based residents are kind of, like, you know, aghast by that. What was really interesting here is this lady, maybe the Russians or Chinese are involved. They have been in that area. Interesting that she says that, because, you know, today in this modern era, when our government is talking about unidentified aerial phenomenon, and, you know, all of these videos have been leaked and are coming out, and whistleblowers are coming forward, one of the major theories has always been, well, you know, maybe these objects, these weird objects that our military and other people, civilians, are encountering are Russian or Chinese, you know, exotic propulsion systems, weapons, and so forth. But even back then, you know, Kirby's kind of using that sort of same trope, that same sociological trope, you know, in relation to this anomaly. But Floyd shoots that down. I'll stake my reputation that TMA-1 has nothing to do with Russians or Chinese. I believe it has nothing to do with the human race. If you saw the recent congressional panel with that guy David Grush, the whistleblower who claimed that the United States has a UFO retrieval unit and has had one for some time, and indeed has alien technology and quote-unquote biologics in their possession, that's essentially what he is saying, is like, it ain't Russian, it ain't Chinese, it's no foreign adversary, it's something not of the human race. Remember, this was published in 1976. So he jumps into this, what they call it, this rocket bus, and they head out to the site where the monolith is buried, and you get this awesome splash page where the speed lines are actually worked into the environment. And so, you know, the shuttle's like zooming over the moonscape. It's pretty cool. Gives you another 2-page splash. This was not in the film, where the moon bus is cruising over this giant ore mineral city, this giant ore processing facility, and we get a good example of Kirby's ability to draw geologics, essentially. Yeah, you know, So his moonscapes are, I just think, fantastic, as is the inking. Also really brings out the pencils, you know, that Kirby does. And you get some of this, you know, pretty wild Kirby industrial technology here. So this is a good spread. I'd like to see the original artwork for this. It would be pretty amazing. And this format is just great for this type of book, you know. So what do we get? I mean, so far we're getting like 4 panels max, I think, on most of these pages. You know, 4 panels, 5 panels, 3 panels. You know, Kirby really going for it with like this. Every panel is just hitting you, cinematic, you know. But he's keeping it really, really good in accordance with the film. This is right out of the movie. This shot right here, as is this shot. You know, so clearly, I mean, you know, Kirby had the movie. I don't know if he had a video. Well, I don't know if they didn't have videotape back then. So, but certainly he had viewed the movie on television or even in the theater. I'm just wondering if maybe MGM had set up a special screening for him, you know, to kind of refresh himself. Because again, the movie came out like in '68. You know, and to do a faithful film adaptation, you know, you want to be able to see it scene for scene in front of you on television while you're drawing it, preferably. I mean, you can do that easily today with today's technology, but, you know, back then, you know, there was no VHS, and like I said, the movie would run like once a year on network television. Anyway, so they come down to take a look at the monolith. Let's check in with what Haywood's dialogue is here. So the conclusion is that 4 million years ago, something presumably from the stars must have swept through the solar system and left this behind. Was it abandoned, forgotten, left for a purpose? I suppose we'll never know. All tests show that this is the first sun it's had in 4 million years. So 4 million years it's been down there before they dug it up. And then you have this other incredible full-page splash, which is really, this is pop art. If you were to remove all the word balloons in the text and just have this as a poster, maybe even as a black light poster, I'd pay money for that. Black light posters were big back in the 70s. But this is what I like about this panel. Absent even the dialogue, essentially what Floyd is experiencing here is a cosmic expansion moment. As he begins to reach for the monolith to touch it, he gazes in wonder and awe, and the background is sort of a reflection of what's going on in his mind. He is just awestruck by not just the object in this moment, in the event, but the enormity of the cosmic enormity of what he is experiencing and seeing. And, you know, basically Kirby gives you that. Even as he fires his questions, Floyd stares in rapt wonder at the enigma. His thoughts are with the great names of science who have preceded him, men who had torn their bits of truth from the unknown. What would they have given for this moment of unprecedented confrontation? And of course, you know, we've got 2 awesome splash pages here, which I'm going to let you marvel at while I take a sip of my tea. I got the Star Wars mug. Next page, they gather for a photograph in front of the monolith. This is also in the film. Interesting how Kirby renders the monolith. So in the film, it's just solid black, sleek, you know, sleek, smooth, super smooth looking object. Here though, you know, the way Kirby draws it and has it inked, it's crusty, you know, it's got age to it, and it's got way more girth than the monolith you see in the film. I mean, this thing is a slab. It's just, you know. The monolith in the movie is maybe just like a quarter of this size in terms of its volume. So anyway, I thought that was interesting, just the way he interprets the monolith versus how it is in the film. So they're going to get the shot of the century, and it begins to emit the signal. The monolith makes its sound for the men to hear and draws them to its side and makes them listen. And again, you see this worship pose, which, you know, is not in the film. In the film, they're all like trying to grab their ears through their helmets because it's like, you know, it's really messing with their ears. It's like a very loud, annoying bird or, you know, security alarm siren. So anyway, this is, you know, this is basically what he's conveying is that, you know, they're basically worshiping it. They're drawn toward it. It even says that the men cling to the monolith and listen, you know, which is again different than the movie. So they're fully receptive to whatever this message is, and then it cuts right to, you know, the space scene of the Jupiter mission. So now in the movie, this point here, you would see the third chapter of the movie. I believe it would be like, you know, 18 months later, Jupiter mission. Or mission to Jupiter. And so the spaceship, and I forget, is it Jupiter 1? I think is what they call it. Discovery 1. So yeah, so Discovery 1 is heading out into space towards Jupiter because that's what the message told them. It told them, you need to go to Jupiter. And this dialogue here is pure Kirby. And soon across the fields of night, a stranger to these Avon sweeps moves towards the unseen mind which calls to life that leaps the steps of time to take them 10 by 10 and more in haste to reach some destined shore. I mean, you know, the poetry is coming out. Onward it glides through the mammoth silence, sheathed in hard tonnage, alive with wonders wrought by the complex whispers of circuitry, by voices which ride on laser paths, by the will of seeking men. Where it is dark, it vanishes. Where the distant sun finds it, it gleams and flashes and moves without faltering. Towards points beyond which wait upon their trail of numbers with mysteries to destroy all slumbers. That's Kirby right there, man. That's classic Kirby. Ahead lies the planets. 14 months later. It's actually 18 in the movie, but why quibble with it? So here we get a really good rendering of Discovery 1. And, you know, you got this cosmic Kirby, you know, just littered with, you know, planets and stars and suns and comets. And, you know, obviously the solar system doesn't look like this. I mean, we don't have that many planets floating around, but, you know, it just conveys this sense of, this is his style. It conveys this sense of just magnificence, you know. 100 million miles beyond Mars in the cold loneliness where no man has yet traveled. Radiation detectors and X-ray telescopes keep watch on strange stars that no human eye may ever see. The gusts and hurricanes of the solar winds are recorded, but also tracked is the great ship. What has begun as Project Jupiter is now fully underway. The huge craft is labeled Discovery 1, and she is on a one-way trip through the Jovian satellite system, with an ultimate goal still hidden from her crew of 5. It is not a suicide trip. If all goes well, they will be brought back on Earth within 7 years, brought back by a sister ship, Discovery 2. So, you know, they're sending out the big ship. And as is explained here and as is in the movie, 2 of the astronauts are awake. The other 3 are in hibernation. Now, the sequencing here is a little different from the film. Kirby kind of manipulates things so that he can speed up the story here. But essentially, the radar detection or satellite detection antenna, what have you, is already reported as broken by HAL 9000, which is the artificial intelligence computer that keeps these guys company and runs the ship's functions. And Dave has brought it back for examination. They find that there's nothing wrong with the antenna, even though HAL had reported it as defective. Right from the get-go, they're already having a conversation about how they just kind of find that it's weird that they weren't briefed, or they don't think they were briefed fully about the mission. And they're wondering why these three guys get woken up when they reach Jupiter and they have to go into hibernation, and then some other ship comes to pick them up. They don't know that they're going to find the monolith. Or it's never really explained if even the people that put together the mission, Haywood Floyd and his team, they're not entirely sure, I think, that they're going to find a monolith. All they know is they've been told to go to Jupiter and that they will probably contact this extraterrestrial civilization there in some way, manner, or form. These two guys, though, Poole and Bowman, are basically just hired to pilot the ship there, and then their job is done. And in fact, the mission could be set to where they don't even know that an extraterrestrial intelligence was encountered by the other three when they're woken up, if indeed they ever are woken up. The role of Hal by Kirby is slightly reduced. He doesn't get as much airtime in the comic book as he does in the film. Thus, his character development isn't so much there. And I think maybe Kirby did that to kind of speed along the story. I mean, he only had so many pages, I'm sure, that he could work with. But he does a good job, obviously, I think, of, following the story in terms of what Hal does. And at the end, Hal's motivations are kind of explained as they are in the film. So they decide that, they want to have a conversation later on about some of the, strange things going on with the mission. And they're beginning to suspect that maybe there's something a little funny with Hal. But before that, it's Frank's birthday. And this is a scene from the movie where he's kind of like in his tanning bed and his parents call him on the video monitor to wish him a happy birthday. This is actually kind of a weird scene in the movie because the parents are almost artificial, and the way they act, it just seems to be so scripted, and I think Kubrick did that on purpose. I'm not sure what his motivation would have been, but I think that he did it on purpose. There's a lot of things that Kubrick does that are subtext and subtle to, the meaning that's apparent on the screen. There's a lot of stuff going on in the background with Kubrick. So, they're in R&R. Bowman's eating dinner and he's watching the news on a video monitor. Kirby's pretty true to the design of the ship in the film, but it's done in classic Kirby style with sort of these, real heavy inks and pencils. But we get to the scene where they want to have the two astronauts want to have a discussion on their own without Hal listening in. So they sort of act as though there's something wrong with one of the modules inside the pod, because they know that Hal can't hear them in there because it's vacuum sealed once they close the door. But Hal is reading their lips, so now he knows that they're suspect of Hal's motivations. Hal can't hear us in here. Listen about that part. He made a mistake. Do you get what I mean, Dave? I suppose it's possible for him to become erratic. He was wrong about a previous check, too, Dave. Hal can lie. He can lie about a lot of things, understand? Easy, Frank. Let's reserve judgment. I suggest we wait. This may work itself out. The dialogue, it's not exactly as it was in the film. It's not as standoffish. I mean, Bowman basically agrees with Poole that there is something going on with Hal. So Hal reports the antenna as malfunctioning again, and Poole goes out this time to fix it. And you have this bit of dialogue here. Dave, I checked the antenna, and I think that Hal has sent me another fool's errand. That dialogue's not in the film. That's Kirby for you. And so, he's monitoring, from inside the spaceship. And